There was an English Franciscan monk, scholar, philosopher called William of Ockham. I forget whether he was in the 13th or the 14th century, 14th I think, the 1300s. And attributed to him is something called Occam's razor. Anyone heard of that? Yes. Yeah. And, or the principle of parsimony. As I understand it, what he was saying was, don't explain things here by making up more entities unseen and unproven to explain those things here. Or, to put it in another way, don't explain complicated things with explanations that are even more complicated than the problem that you are trying to solve. For his own health's sake, he excluded from this the doctrine of the Trinity, of the Incarnation, and of the transubstantiation of the bread and wine and the Mass into the real body and blood of Christ. He deliberately accepted those, otherwise he might have ended up on the stake. And maybe in the same position I would have done that too. But his principle, I think, would rule out a lot of the contradictions that are evident in Christian and in other religious traditions. So that's the position I've come to. That's why I'm here, and it's taken me years, I guess most of my working life, to get here. I'm even still a bit reluctant. As I say earlier, I retired a year and a half from the ministry. A bit reluctant because I like the people I was working with also. But I still like music and art that has been inspired by the Christian tradition, Bach, Handel, and so on. I even like Gregorian chanting. I still like to sing Christmas carols and some hymns. Some of them are terrible, but some hymns are good. And I won't be among those rationalists who oppose public nativity scenes at Christmas time. I know some rationalists do oppose that. Or other Christian symbols in the civic arena. As I wouldn't oppose symbols from other religious traditions in other societies if I lived in those societies. I would oppose such symbolism if I found it to be dehumanizing and destructive. Then I would oppose it. Well, while thinking about these matters recently, I just need to add another word there. It seems to me that things like Christmas and Easter, even the Bible, are part of our cultural heritage. And so to simply debunk them completely seems to me not to be appropriate. But while thinking about these matters recently, I came to the conclusion that while I am now a naturalist, a humanist, a rationalist, and yes, I think that implies being an atheist, I continue to be a cultural Christian. That's my heritage. That's where I've come from. That's part of who I am. I don't believe in the supernatural. I don't believe in God. But the culture and the symbolism of Christianity still suffuses my values, my attitudes. Having come to that conclusion, I put the words cultural Christianity onto Google. And guess what happened? I was surprised. I thought I coined the term anew. You know, I'd never heard of the term before, cultural Christianity. But when I put it on Google, pop, there was Richard Dawkins. It's not the first time I thought I was original when I wasn't. Richard Dawkins had beaten me to it. In an interview with the BBC, he made the following comments. And I'll just read these to you. The BBC reporter said that Dawkins did not want to purge the UK of its Christian heritage. He also said that he liked, quote, singing carols along with everybody else. He also said, I'm not one of those who wants to stop Christian traditions. This is, he said about the UK, historically a Christian country. I'm a cultural Christian in the same way many of my friends call themselves cultural Jews or cultural Muslims. So yes, I like singing carols along with everybody else. I'm not one of those who wants to purge our society of our Christian history. If there's any threat to these sorts of things, I think you'll find it comes from rival religions, not from atheists. I remember how opposed my mother was to the building of a mosque in our home area in the Netherlands where I was born. It was just a scandal. Somebody from another faith felt that way. And he added, I fully recognise the full historical and cultural significance of Christianity in our country. You probably didn't come to hear that tonight, but I just wanted to make those points as well. I'll give you some examples here. Palestinian Christians. Most people don't seem to realise there were many, I think 14% of the Palestinian population some several decades ago were Christian. And Iraqi Christians who are now being persecuted and who are being driven out of Iraq. They're leaving in droves, for which I don't blame them. But a number of those Palestinian and Iraqi Christians were atheists, but still identified with the Christian communities in which they had grown up. So they would still call themselves Christian. And probably most Israeli Jews today are secular in outlook. Many of them are atheists, but they're culturally part of a community defined by religion. Even more, our society is not defined by religion, but I think Israel is. And yet the majority of the population are not religious. Now, I've got some Jewish friends who attend synagogue reasonably regularly, but they're not observant Jews at all. They don't observe kosher or anything like that, but because it's part of family life, they sort of still go along with it. So that's another option. So it seems to me it's possible to be a rationalist, a humanist, an atheist, even firmly committed to that outlook, and to work for a purely secular society, which seems to me very, very important, and yet also be a cultural Christian. I don't know what you think of that, but that's my statement at this point. But I want to affirm, to emphasise how important making sure that our society remains secular, and that even the non-secular parts of our society that are still around, traces of it are still around, that we address those as well, because we are in real danger if we slip back in the direction of non-secularism. We can only have a tolerant, multicultural society if religion doesn't influence our decisions in any particular direction, whatever that may be. It's very important that we separate faith and politics, church and state. That would be heresy to the people who were responsible for my initial theological training, but that's how I feel now. It's very important, and for that reason, it seems to me important to have organisations like the Association of Rationalists and Humanists who actually stand for that, put up the flag. We are and we must remain a thoroughly secular society. I would like the society, to change its name and call itself the Open Society. That would be really good, I think, if that did happen, because it's too easy to say negative things about others, but actually I think we make more impact if we're positive, and I think what we can really be positive about is being part of a secular society and keeping it that way. I think we should get rid of the prayer in Parliament, for example. There's just one little symbol, but every time Parliament meets, this little prayer is said. And I just wonder how sincere the Speaker is. I don't know. He may be very sincere when he says it, but that seems to me to be really odd that happens. And also the purple economy, the economy which benefits the churches as charities. I'm not against church charities, such as Christian World Service or the Catholic Caritas getting tax relief, because they are actually helping people. But where no charitable work is involved and it's simply for the running of the church, it seems to me quite inappropriate that there be discrimination in their favour against other voluntary organisations who don't get that. That's, the Purple Economy. It's a book written by an Australian